Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fearless Floyd Show. As always, I am your host, Fearless Floyd, and today's presentation will be part 8 of Darrell Link's A Farmer's Nightmare. And while we get Darrell on the line here, like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, leave a comment below. If you have a question, fearlessfloydshow@yahoo.com is my email, or you can leave it below in the comments or in the chat. The chat's available. As you see behind me, all kind of holiday specials happening. Go take advantage of them while they are available. $2 right here, $2 if you want to have a chance to win an ebook and LeFlore's Trust book right here. Okay. That book, the ebook, is one of 10 grand prizes. The class is one of 10 grand prizes. So the grand prize winner, there'll be 10 of them, will receive the class, the live class on the 9th, as well as the ebook. And then I will have 10 runner-ups that will also receive the ebook. 20 winners. $1.99 to enter. FearlessFloydShow.com. Go check it out. All right. I have that's a live one-on-one class. If you just like pay for it, $199. What that includes, you get the free ebook, okay, and you will create your revocable living trust during that class for the first hour and a half, 2 hours, however long it takes, however many people we have in class. I'll do an EIN walkthrough, show you how to get your EIN through the IRS.gov website. And then we'll go over how to get your non-interest bearing bank account. We'll run through the PowerPoint slides of Ann LeFlore's Trust 101 class. And then Ann will come on for an hour of Q&A. And then you will be left upon your own devices to effectuate your trust. That means get all your signatures, including your witnesses, your notarizations, and as well as your own, all your appointments, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can move on to opening your non-interest bearing bank account. That's what the class entails. It's going to be about a 4 or 5 hour class. So be prepared to have all that in one sitting. I won't overwhelm you. We will probably take a break after we establish our trust and come back. That way everybody get a little refresher and then dive right into the PowerPoints. And then we'll probably take a break after the PowerPoints and I'll take some questions and then we'll bring Ann on. And hopefully you won't have many questions. Y'all can thank her for everything and then we can move on. Holiday package number 1 right here. It's the soft cover and the ebook. The soft cover, it's 2 books. I have them over here. They're already packaged up, ready to go. So all I got to do is slip your receipt in there, seal it, send it off to you through the post office media mail. That package, both books, run a special, $149 on the website. Package number 2, soft cover and the ebook, and all the classes that Ann has created. The VCR class, Trust 101, 201, 301, 401, and 501. If you don't know what those classes are, go to the fearlessfloydshow.com website in the store, and you can check them all out. That's package number 2. That package, number 2, is $699. All the classes, access to all the Telegram groups, videos, materials, ebook, and the softcover book. Ebook will be immediately sent to you on payment, as well as addition to all the Telegram groups. Softcover book will go out the next day. Holiday package number 3 is just the ebook. So jump on that deal. And down here, any trust class that we offer, 101, 201, 301, 401, 501, $99. If you need to get your CUSIP, there you go. You can now, I have a person, an entity that will obtain your how to obtain your CUSIP information.
That in the safe for me when you get them.
Absolutely. And then, of course, the trust class sweepstakes for $1.99, unlimited entries. Like I said, 10 grand prize winners, 10 runners ups. Everybody gets an ebook. I'm also going to give away some class seats for my other compatriots on this and other platforms as gifts for their members, subscribers, viewers, fans, groupies, whatever. So I believe I've covered everything. Just go to the fearlessfloydshow.com/store. If you want to participate in any one of these things. All right, we'll be right back with Darrell Link and part 8 of the Farmer's Nightmare. And welcome back. And we have Darrell Link on the show. Darrell, I'm going to transfer everything over to you and give you a little short bio about what this series is about for all the unfamiliar faces. And then we'll dive right into part 8. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay, well, thank you. I just was going over basically the experience I had in the mid-90s, in 94, 5, and 6, where I got into a bankruptcy. I was kind of forced into the bankruptcy when we tried to work out a deal through mediation. I thought I had a mediation agreement, and then 2 weeks later, they sued me in state court why they shouldn't take everything. So I had to start working on that. I filed a Chapter 12 bankruptcy, and then I seen how they were trying to use the bankruptcy court to entrap me into some kind of contract that I wouldn't be able to basically fulfill. So I wanted out of it. I met a man named Joe Holland. He helped me get out of there, and I was putting together basically a non-judicial commercial lien process. I got dismissed. I served that non-judicial proceeding upon 58 of the parties, and they didn't know what to do because it was all done by affidavit under the penalty of perjury. They couldn't rebut it, and they feared it would encumber all their property, so they moved to reinstate the dismissed bankruptcy, and then converted it to an involuntary Chapter 7 when, even though their own rules say they can't convert a farmer to an involuntary Chapter 7. And this is when it really started going really fast. After we rebutted it, I moved to basically revoke and rescind my signatures on the bankruptcy cover page, the plan, the schedules, and the application. And therefore, I was withdrawing all my consent on paper and verbally. And after I did that, they didn't know what to do. They reinstated to an involuntary Chapter 7, and we kind of went over that in the last part where I showed the documents. But they went ahead to issue an order to gather and sale cattle, and this was all done like on the 9th, 10th of December of 1994. And then I went ahead and I got notice of this on the 9th or 10th, and on the 12th, I had documents prepared. It's called on Exhibit 1. It's the application for a preliminary injunction to quash the orders. And this was directed to the United States District Court, Southern Division, right there in Sioux Falls. And it was actually bringing a separate case in there. And I wanted this to be served upon the judge, John B. Jones, right there in the courthouse. I took it up to the marshals, and I, asked them if they would serve it. They looked at me, they looked at the papers, they looked at me, looked at the papers again. They said, "We can't serve this." Wow. I thought, man, they're just right down the hall here. And I thought that was part of their detail, but they didn't. So we went out, and I talked to John Heller, who was another paralegal that was there in Sioux Falls. And well, we made some extra originals, and he notarized them. And then we had a deputy sheriff go down and serve them in the courthouse. And he said, "Well, I think I can get this one, and maybe probably this one tonight, and the rest I'll get in the morning if I can't get them tonight." And so you'll see on this here application, we try to get a temporary restraining order to stay any of the action that would follow after they give an order to gather and sale cattle. So, when he got that, he got it actually the day before they come to seize him. So we'll go through this here. I'll kind of read through my application that I filed with the district court that John B. Jones went ahead and denied after knowing all the facts. Okay, it says, comes now petitioner Darrell A. Link and petitions the court.
Slow down. I got to pull it up.
Okay.
Let's share the screen. Hang on.
Exhibit 1.
There you go. Blast away.
Okay, comes now petitioner Darrell A. Link and petitions this court for a preliminary injunction against the United States and its bankruptcy court for the District of South Dakota, quashing and barring the bankruptcy court and its agents from acting on the order converting case from Chapter 12 to Chapter 7, an order allowing trustee to gather and sale cattle of debtor. Copies are hereto attached as Exhibits A and B. And this is where the judge issued an order to converting case from a Chapter 12 to a Chapter 7. And Exhibit B was an order allowing trustee to gather and sale cattle of debtor. And I read through those in part number 7, and we won't go through them again. So we continue on. That copies are hereto attached. Okay, on grounds that the bankruptcy court had no authority and jurisdiction since the petitioner had rescinded his signature on the application to the bankruptcy court and had revoked any and all consent and jurisdiction based on the premise of fraud, and that petitioner had no right, the second page, no right to apply for bankruptcy protection under Title 11. This court has jurisdiction over the original action under 28 U.S.C. 1331. This matter involving a federal question. What the net effect is when the signature on the application for bankruptcy stay is rescinded, consent is withdrawn, and when 11 U.S.C. 109A specifically bars any person that resides or has a domicile, a place of business or property outside of the United States as defined in 101, Section 51. And I think that's a B. From being a debtor under Title 11. What's that?
It's just 101.51.
Okay. There's another little mark here I got on this my sheet, but venue is properly in this court since the action of the United States and its bankruptcy court agents have occurred within the Judicial District of South Dakota. This petition seeks a preliminary injunction under Rule 65 after the commencement of a hearing of an application for this preliminary injunction and further seek a temporary restraining order pending trial of the action on the merits. The foregoing facts are true and correct to the best of my knowledge and belief, dated the 12th day of December, 1994, signed Darrell A. Link, and notarized by the notary, John Heller. And then exhibit number 2, which is an affidavit in support of application for preliminary injunction. Comes now, Darrell A. Link, being duly deposed under the laws of the United States of America and the state, and state the following is true and correct to the best of my knowledge and belief. Number 1, the affiant is a citizen living near Delmont, South Dakota, which is outside the United States as defined in 11 U.S.C. 101, Section 51. That affiant is over 21 years of age, and is competent to testify to the matter stated herein from personal knowledge. Number 2, that affiant had signed an application for automatic stay before the bankruptcy court for the District of South Dakota on March 21st, 1994. And that time assuming the affiant had the right to do so. Now affiant had concluded that 11 USC 109A specifically had barred him from ever applying this upon careful research, and that no one in the bankruptcy court ever denied or refuted that that was true and correct. This is page 2 of that. Number 3, that affiant, upon finding out that he was barred, revoked and rescinded the signature on the application on October 31st, 1994. And that's attached as Exhibit G. The full notice thereof has given to all parties in the bankruptcy case number 94-40136, which is Exhibit H, and no one involved, including the judge or trustee, ever refuted or denied that conclusion stated in paragraph 2 above was true and correct. Thereby, affiant concludes that they fully agree with the conclusion by tacit confession and had full knowledge of it. Number 4, the affiant on or about December 9, 1994 did receive by mail a copy of the order converting case from Chapter 12 to Chapter 7 and order allowing trustee to gather and sale cattle of debtor. And that affiant, since rescission and revocation of signature, had not claimed any rights in bankruptcy, including the right of appeal of said orders, and had granted and not granted any consent to the bankruptcy court, and now have knowledge of and now have no knowledge of any remedy at law other than by this petition. Number 5, that immediate and irreparable loss, injury, loss, and damage will result to the affiant before the adverse parties can be heard in opposition. The affiant certifies, having given the bankruptcy court several notices that should have prevented them from issuing the orders, copies of said notices are attached as Exhibits C, D, and E. The affiant believes these notices should be adequate grounds to not require notice prior to the issuance of temporary restraining order. Further saith not, dated this 12th day of December, 1994. Signed, Darrell A. Link, before notary, John Heller. Okay, exhibit number C, or number 3, is basically the temporary restraining order, which was filed in the United States District Court for the District of South Dakota Southern Division. Got a separate case number. And this was to the bankruptcy court, the trustees, Thomas A. Pokla, which was the Chapter 7 trustee, Bruce Jering, who is one of the U.S. trustees, and Ricky Arnell, which was the Chapter 12 trustee. And this was served on the head district judge, John B. Jones. Okay, petition. Darrell A. Link, showing by affidavit that immediate and irreparable injury, loss, or damage will result from the order converting case from a Chapter 12 to Chapter 7 to allow and order allowing trustee to gather and sale cattle of debtor. When it is alleged that petitioner has rescinded his signature from the application for bankruptcy and has withdrawn consent to the bankruptcy court, being a farmer, and that notice has been given of such rescission and revocation. It is so ordered that you are that you are temporarily restrained from acting on the above named orders, and that you are to show cause why an injunction should not bar you from any action to enforce those orders. And that time so fixed to show such cause on this blank day of 1994 at whatever time before Judge blank and the United States District Court and the federal courthouse in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, dated this blank day of December 1994. Now, this was an order that was prepared for him, so he would just be able to look over the information and sign the order to stay them from moving on the collection and the taking of the cattle. And you'll see on this is the second page of exhibit number 3, where this was served upon the head judge, John B. Jones. And it says request denied, 12/12 of 1994. Now, and then he signs it, John B. Jones, judge. Okay, and this order was entered the next day. And now taking consideration, it was on the 13th, the next day, when the marshals and the sheriff and all these agents showed up in the yard with the highway patrol and everyone else to come and take the cattle, when this could have all been prevented by this application for a temporary restraining order. And then the restraining order was already prepared, and instead of the judge issuing a restraining order and stopping the action from happening, he condoned it. He said, go ahead and plunder. We will protect you. We will not allow this to be stayed. I will deny it. And he denied it, and so it went on. So if you want to go to, there was those 2 orders, A and B, that I talked about, the order converting the case, and then the order allowing the gather and sale of cattle, which was exhibit A and B. So go to exhibit C, and this was my response.
Exhibit C, hang on.
Okay. It's basically, we go the debtor, he is rescinded and dismissed. The chapter 12 was dismissed, refusal for cause without dishonor of judge's hearing minutes. Comes now, Darrell Link, and hereby refuses for cause without dishonor the document entitled Judge's Hearing Minutes on the following grounds: all previously stated and hereby restated for emphasis. Number 1, the signature on the voluntary petition application has been revoked and rescinded, and consent has been withdrawn from the bankruptcy court. And then parentheses, I've got C, affidavit of revocation and rescission of signature and power of attorney filed on October 31st, 1994. There has been no showing by affidavit of any cause why such revocation and rescission is not valid and lawful as required by notice of rescission and discharge. Number 2, all obligations that first were brought in petition have been discharged under UCC by tender of payment by notes under UCC 3-104. There has been no showing of cause why such discharge should not be effectual, effective, and final. Number 3, no one has shown cause why fraud that was alleged and consented to by all the debtor parties cannot and should not be a valid and lawful grounds for rescission and the final discharge of any obligations that may be alleged or may still appear. Number 4, that the court, in order of dismissal and reservation of jurisdiction in certain matters, specifically found, quote, no existence of fraud on the debtor's part, unquote. And there still was none found, there still has none been found, presented and so determined by any other court or parties. Number 5, even if I would still be granting consent to this court for jurisdiction under 11 U.S.C. 1307 e, the law does not permit such conversion to a Chapter 7 unless the debtor requests such. And it is obvious that I am not requesting conversion to a Chapter 7. In fact, in no uncertain terms, I do not want you to even think that I am still in bankruptcy or that I consent in any way with this alleged intended action by this court. Number 6, furthermore, Judge Eckert, who is the bankruptcy judge, could not have issued any order to bring me back into bankruptcy since he already had a conflict of interest being a debtor party to the non-judicial proceeding, that non-judicial commercial lien proceeding. Number 7, furthermore, this is the first time that I have seen a judge write up the minutes of a hearing. Normally, this is done by the clerk. This action is outside the normal judicial function of Irvin N. Hoyt, who was the appointed Chapter 7 trustee at that time. This document states that the case was converted to a Chapter 7, the second page, referenced as some past event. However, it failed to state by whom and by what authority. Some reference is made to LBR 105C2, but no explanation as to its meaning was given. Any action is ultra vires, and any judge issuing an order when he knows there is no authority and has been giving all the facts is a stupid fool and is inviting a Title 42 suit. Dated the 6th day of December, 1994, signed by Darrell A. Link, and certificate of service went to Douglas Kettering, which is the attorney for PCA, Bruce Jering, the U.S. trustee there in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Rick Yarnell, who was the Chapter 12 trustee that moved to convert it to an involuntary Chapter 7. So if you want to go to Exhibit D, this was filed. These documents were kind of a little bit. They were put in as exhibits a little bit backwards. So this was filed before that document, that refusal for cause. This is in response to the hearing, response to order setting hearing for and refusal for cause without dishonor. Comes now, Darrell A. Lincoln responds and refuses for cause the order setting hearing on dismissal or conversion of case as follows. Number 1, I have withdrawn my signature from the application, and this one-way contract is rescindable by the only party involved and signing. Number 2, conversion issue has already been dealt with at a previous hearing and is mute and non-applicable or permitted by law, even if I was still in bankruptcy. Number 3, all obligations to the former creditors are in suspension by tender of payment, as previously stated, and there is no cause for any court action. Number 4, all obligations have been discharged by same tender of payment under UCC 3-104. Number 5, no party has given any valid reason or shown cause why I cannot rescind my signature on the application when first made. Number 6, I hereby refuse for cause the order setting hearing. This was dated the 21st of November, 1994, just a couple weeks before. Dated and signed by Darrell A. Link and served upon the Chapter 12 trustee and the attorney for Production Credit Association of the Midlands, PCA of the Midlands. Okay, Exhibit D1. okay, which is a response to PCA's response to the revocation and rescission of signature and demand for court strike. Comes now Darrell Link and responds to the demands that the court strike response of PCA to debtor's affidavit of revocation of signature and power of attorney and notice of rescission and discharge on grounds of irrelevancy and scandalous matter as follows. Number one, I, as former debtor, did withdraw signature from application and therefore can no longer be designated as a debtor, especially since I could never qualify as a debtor under this chapter. PCA claims there is no legal authority, which is absolutely right as it relates to me qualifying to be a debtor. PCA attorney did not show how I could qualify other than using a social security number, which I also had revoked and rescinded. Number three, the act of rescission is not an act in regard to any obligation, as it may apply to any alleged credit obligation. It is an act done as a matter of law and being in compliance with law. And number five, these are in rebuttal to his response to the affidavit of revocation. These are the conflicting parts. I have never claimed, number five, I have never claimed that rescission of signature or application abrogated any alleged obligation to PCA. The obligations are discharged pursuant to another action and tendering of payment for specific discharge purposes. PCA attorney is intentionally making it appear as if there is an issue here when there is not any raised at all in the document. Number six, PCA attorney alleges something to the effect of have the obligations paid in full, in quotes, before they are satisfied, when they know full well that there has been no debt fully paid since 1933, but such obligations have only been put in suspension by the discharging process under the UCC, which is the Uniform Commercial Code. Therefore, the claim that I am trying to abrogate the alleged obligation with PCA by withdrawing the signature from the application is a totally confused argument, contradictory in itself. The only issue that may relate to the withdrawal of signature is whether a party who legally cannot qualify to be a debtor under Title 11 has the right to correct his mistake and error, and whether such wishes are binding on the court at all. The claim that I am to make payment in full is a total lack of understanding and what is really going on today in our money system. Obligations are discharged, but not paid under any lawful requirement of the Constitution of the United States, Article 1, Section 10, Clause, Paragraph 1, which clearly states that no state, in quotes, no state shall make anything but gold or silver coin a tender in payment of debts, unquote. Apparently, PCA attorney thinks they can abrogate the Constitution and the UCC. Next page. This interpretation and understanding is a final and binding word on this court to avoid any unlawful action for which a damage claim may be asserted. I am clearly not abrogating any alleged obligations by withdrawing my signature on the application. Discharge is accomplished by tender for payment using a negotiable instrument under UCC. All of the arguments and matters raised by PCA attorney are irrelevant and scandalous, and as matters related to any issue at all. I clearly hereby refuse for cause without dishonor this document from PCA's attorney, and the court should strike it on its own motion. And that was dated the 21st of November, 1994, signed by Darrell A. Link, served upon the Chapter 12 trustee and the Doug Kettering, the attorney for PCA, the Midlands of Yankton, South Dakota. Okay, if we want to go to Exhibit E. Okay, and this one is a response to debtors or to trustees' objection to the affidavit of revocation and rescission of signature and power of attorney, and the notice of rescission and discharge. Now, this one was just right before the last document. The last one was like a continuation. It was like an addition to this. Okay, it says, comes now Darrell A. Link, a former debtor and now creditor, and responds to the Chapter 12 trustee's obligation to affidavit of revocation of and rescission of signature and power of attorney, and notice of rescission and discharge by trustee Rick A. Yarnell, and demands this court to strike said document along with documents filed by Farm Credit Services on grounds of lack of jurisdiction and lack of consent, supporting the same as follows. And now, here I'm coming as a former debtor, but now creditor. Since I've got this notice of a commercial lien process, and now they are actually on the other side, and now they are having to answer for their overreach of authority, where they have been operating outside of their oath of office, basically plundering and using their position for their own profit or gain. And when they got caught by me serving that non-judicial judicial process, now that don't have anything to do with the court, because it's all done by affidavit under the penalty of perjury, and affidavits don't lie. It is a statement of truth. And I served that upon them, and now they had 30 days to refute it by affidavit under the penalty of perjury, and they couldn't do it. And that was their dilemma. And that's why they come after me and use the bankruptcy court for their own protection, to protect them from liability, so they didn't lose any of their little financial goodies. And so I'll continue on with number one. Original bankruptcy application was voluntary under Chapter 12. And number two, that dismissal was also by voluntary application, where I asked for the case to be dismissed, and the judge did grant the dismissal, and he ruled that there was specifically no existence of fraud on my part. So number three, that there is no basis under any law to allow the specific prayer to this court to be heard, and nothing allows this court to assume jurisdiction over the specific matter of the affidavit of revocation and rescission of signature and power of attorney, and notice of rescission and discharge. And trustee Yarnell failed to certify by affidavit why signatures should not or could not be revoked based upon the grounds stated in the affidavit. Number four, that all of the obligations of any consequences to PCA of the Midlands have been discharged by the tender of new notes, negotiable instruments under UCC 3-104 for tender of payment, and all said obligations are in suspension, joining hundreds of trillions of other such obligations since 1933. And the affidavit by Wayne Williamson falsely states that there remains an obligation, but he fails to release the security, and hold the same wrongfully. As the tender of payment was served upon PCA, never returned the original instrument, but just said it was denied. and not accepted and honored. And even though it was pending determination of the substance of said money by the Attorney General. So that's all he had to do. And it was as valid as anything else. And there is no substance, so one note will discharge another note. So number 5, the documents identified as affidavit of revocation and rescission of signature and power of attorney and notice of rescission and discharge are all part of a voluntary. I was the only one that could sign the original application, and I am the only one that can rescind and revoke. No trustee nor PGA of the Midlands have not shown cause why the signatures cannot be revoked and rescinded based on the grounds stated. That action requires a response point by point without any side issues and matters and avoidance by PCA. Any claim contrary to my claim as to facts must be supported point by point and by law. Either it is the truth or it is not. Next page. It will be the truth if the trustee and PCA of the Midlands refuse to argue each allegations and show the truth to be otherwise by affidavit, just as my claims stated therein are by affidavit. Number 6, furthermore, no judge may assume judicial jurisdiction or conflict of interest grounds, since he would obviously become a debtor party to the non-judicial proceeding. Number 7, furthermore, I reiterate, I have revoked and rescinded my signature on the Social Security number application, and technically I cannot be a party in bankruptcy without the necessary nexus to the District of Columbia and the venue of all bankruptcy proceedings. Therefore, I respectfully request that this court, on its own motion, strike trustee's objection and PCA's motion, dated the 9th day of November, 1994, signed Darrell A. Link, and also served upon those same parties. So this is where we took issue. This was all before the sale of the cattle. And so we put in this application, and it was supported by all these exhibits to show that the United States District Court, which is the court that is superior to the U.S. Bankruptcy Court, and we give this judge an opportunity to stay the proceeding so we could adjudicate this stuff and correct it before they invoke the damage of going out and committing armed robbery, basically fully equipped with weapons, pointing at the house, surround the house, standing there with shooting glasses on and all this stuff, and coming with trucks and hauling things away by force. Now, all this could have been avoided. All Judge B. Jones would have needed to do was to sign that temporary restraining order and stay that proceeding. But it was already planned that they were coming out the next morning, and they were not going to interfere with this here. And it's just so happened that I was able to get this application and this temporary restraining order into the court record and get it served the day before. I guess I had no idea that they were coming out on the 13th. So, but, you know, as soon as I got this here notice together and sale cattle, we took issue with it. And Ray Ehrman was very articulate with words, and he was an excellent typer. And he was very fluent with the procedure of helping put together documents and stuff. So it really helped to get this stuff laid out and make a record of it. Even though there was no remedy, we still have a record, and these people really need to be held accountable for the criminal things that they were involved in. So if you want to go to the affidavit of revocation of signature, Exhibit G, we went through this already, but this is where I I did this affidavit of revocation of signature on the bankruptcy petition dated March 21st, 1994. That's when it was originally petitioned. And then there's a cover sheet that always goes with that to when you file a case into federal court. And then there's the declaration concerning the debtor schedules dated the April 24 or April 23rd, and then the statement of financial affairs, which this is where you declare all your property that you have that, you know, would be now in the jurisdiction of the bankruptcy court through this petition. But I basically revoked and rescinded it. And, you know, therefore, you know, I had no connection anymore with this bankruptcy court, and they were trying to compel me to consent because it's all done by consent, and I have clearly withdrawn my consent, and there's no way they can deny it because it's all over the record, and I've got file stamp copies, I've got certified copies. They might not all be in the order of the timing of when they were done, but they're all still part of the record. And so then I give a notice of rescission, which is Exhibit H, where basically this notice, you that the enclosed affidavit discharges the bankruptcy court from original obligation to perform referenced as valuable consideration in bankruptcy application dated March 21st, 1994. Thank you so much, very much. Please take further notice that the affidavit of revocation and rescission of signature and power of attorney, all signatures are revoked retroactive to the date of signing, because I just recently found out that I had no right to be in your court and this bankruptcy unit based on the restrictions found in 11 USC 101-46, which, quote, it says the District of Columbia. And number 51 is, quote, territories and possessions of the United States, unquote, which is basically Puerto Rico, Guam, Virgin Islands, and American Samoa. And 11 USC 109 little a states that you must reside or domicile a place of business or property in the United States as defined in 11 USC 101-51. And so if you live outside of those territories and possessions or the District of Columbia, that whole title does not apply to you. Only by consent, if you wish to. And you would identify yourself as basically a U.S. citizen that is warehoused in the District of Columbia, which is your birth certificated person that they want to tie together with a social security number, which is another presumed contract, because in reality, a legal fiction, a corporation, legal fiction cannot contract with the living man or woman. It is only by consent through an agent or agency. So, and that is why I rescind the signatures on those documents and any relating thereto, and put you back into what I believe you were before the valuable consideration was petitioned for. I will give all parties 30 days to show cause why the original petition should not be rescinded based upon non-applicability, non-qualification, and mistake as required by UCC 2-608 at Part 2. The effect of this notice shall become final in 30 days if no one brings forth any valid arguments to present same by affidavit. Thank you again. God bless you. And this was filed and dated the 31st of October, 1994. And this was all before they moved to reinstate, they moved to convert, they moved to get a writ of assistance, appoint a Chapter 7 trustee. This was all prior to that. So this is all the notices that supported the temporary restraining order. And Judge John B. Jones had full knowledge of all these documents and refused to basically use them to stay the proceeding. And so if we want to go to those pictures, Floyd, we'll go to number 1 and 1A.
Pictures?
The pictures, yes.
Which ones were those?
It was the taking of the cattle. There was.
Yeah, you didn't tell me I had to have that up, so hang on, let me go find them.
Okay, there was 13. There were 13 pictures, or actually 26 pictures on 13 different pages. I sent those to you prior to the
I have them.
documents.
I have them stashed in your episodes.
Okay. But anyway, here you're gonna.
Force.
Okay, no, it was
Nope.
before them. It should say pictures of cattle theft or something like that. But here you're going to see how all these different agents and agencies work together in harmony as a swarm. When they come after you, they're all doing it for the benefit of the banking establishment in their Ponzi scheme to protect themselves, where they're continuing to lend out nothing based upon your signature and your collateral. They lend you your own credit and then charge you interest and want you to bring back the principal and the interest when they had zero invested from the very beginning, but we're only operating as a middleman. And this has been the erosion of our whole system and economy, is the creation of this here basically debt used as basically credit units. It's actually debt credit, as we have no lawful money. Were you able to locate them?
Yeah, they're on screen. Right.
Okay, we'll start with number 1. It says, and that's one of the South Dakota Highway Patrol, working together with the swarm of corporate agents to steal the cattle for the bankers through their corporate for-profit bankruptcy court. And remember, all these courts are operating. They've all got a Dun & Bradstreet number. You can look it up and just DNB.com lookup, and you can put in this court name and you'll find it registered under Dun & Bradstreet as a for-profit corporation that has a employer identification number or an EIN number. So letter 1A basically is the South Dakota Highway Patrol working together as a team with the U.S. Marshal Service to block the driveway into the Darrell Link farm on the morning of December 13th, 1994. And it was probably 0 that morning. And I was surprised to see them all swarming into the yard with their lights on and all that. And then I would not walk outside the door until I called some of my neighbors and my brother and a guy from town to come out with a movie camera. And we videoed all this here. And they weren't going to let that guy come into the yard with his movie camera. So I walked out there and I said, "Come on, Larry." I said, "Come on in." I said, "This is my farm. This ain't theirs." I said, "They have no authority for being here." So we did come in and we did video it. And there was 2 guys that had ski masks on. And they refused to pull them off. But I didn't get a lot of these pictures. I thought I had more that showed where I come up to the car and I was asking, for their name and their badge number and stuff. They put their hand over their face when I tried to take a picture of them. And I've got a couple of them like that. And then they covered up their badge. But I come out with a camera around my neck, a tape recorder in my pocket, and a clipboard on my with a pen. And I was writing down names. But the first thing, when they all come in the yard, it wasn't until after everybody showed up where I had some witnesses. I didn't want to go step outside and let them shoot me and then make up some excuse that I committed suicide or I pulled a weapon or something like that. But I come out there with a t-shirt on and socks and some jeans. And I said, man, I said, what do you guys want? And here was two marshals standing by the front door. They both had their little yellow shooting glasses on with their arms kind of right by their pistols. And I opened the door. And I said, man, what do you guys want? And he said, well, we're here to take your cattle. And I said, for who? I said, I've discharged the debt with PCA. I said, I've been dismissed out of the bankruptcy court. And the judge ruled there was specifically no existence of fraud on my part. I said, for who? And he said, well, we're here to take your cattle. And we got an order from the bankruptcy court. And I said, well, it looks like you got the gun. So I said, let me go get some clothes on and I'll come out. And so that's when I went back in, I dressed back up, and I went out with the camera around my neck and stuff and took these pictures. And number two is this was Production Credit Association agent Wayne Williamson in the car, which he is part of the Special Assets Division for Federal Land Bank Production Credit Association. And he had a the guy with the baseball hat there, I'm not sure, but I think he was the Highway Patrol, if I'm not mistaken. But and the other guy with his back turned against you is Louis Dirks, with his back to the camera, and he was the hired bankruptcy court, the hired thief to coordinate the swarm of corporate agents to do this work. And number 2A, the picture there on the bottom, and there was the Charles Mix County Deputy Sheriff, Bill Youngstrom, talking to the U.S. Marshal, Kevin Johnson, who is the lead U.S. Marshal. It's a U.S. Marshal Service, which is different from the U.S. Marshal. My understanding, there's just one marshal in the state, and then you have the Marshal Service, which is basically a service contractor. Okay, and he was working together with a swarm of corporate agents, to steal assets again for the bankruptcy court, for the bankers, using the bankruptcy court. And the South Dakota Highway Patrol was in the background with his vehicle kind of parked, as they all kind of went in and out of their vehicles to stay warm, as it was a little bit chilly. And exhibit number 3 is PCA assistant helpers to help, which is Sturge Voigt, or Van Voigt, and Roger Wilcott. And Wayne Williamson is there on the right, and PCA, which is the PCA Special Assets Division agent. And the U.S. Marshal, Kevin Johnson, in the middle, basically working with the swarm in harmony to make sure things go smooth. And see, all these different agents working for these agencies, how they're all working in harmony one with another to protect it. And they've got the courts to support it, and they've got the law enforcement to help them, enforce it. So how do you deal with it? And that's where I said, the worst enemy is one wearing a suit or tie or a badge and uniform that's basically promoting the corporation. And the people put their trust in these agents. And when they become the lawbreaker, that becomes very dangerous, because where do you go to correct that? The courts are all working together to protect each other.
Right.
And what comes to mind, what's that?
There's nobody to hold them accountable.
Right. And what comes to mind is basically the Masonic Lodge, where you look beside most of these courthouses, and just down the street, if not connected, here's a big Masonic Lodge. And this is where this, I think, is a lot of it is coordinated with the Bar Association and with the enforcement, with the judiciary. And it's all funded through this here private Federal Reserve corporate structure to complete an agenda. And number 3A is basically Louis Dirks there on the left, which is the hired bankruptcy court thief that coordinated this here, and working out the detailed plan with the U.S. Marshal, Kevin Johnson, in the middle. And on the right is the Charles Mix County Sheriff, Ray Wessendorf. And this must be what the mainstream media calls peacekeepers. As we see, it's the local sheriff that has to allow these here federal agents to come onto your property. And the one thing, the highway patrol are specifically, outside of that authority because their duty does not expand to coming onto the yard. They do come on as assistant, but I'll explain a little bit of that on a later deal when they were used to come onto the yard to try to serve me and do stuff like that. Number 4, the U.S. Marshal there, Kevin Johnson, with his back on the left, and the other marshal appeared to be talking to the Deputy Sheriff Bill Youngstrom, planning the theft and the loading of the cattle, waiting for the 5 semi-trucks to arrive. And down on the bottom there, 4A, is U.S. Marshal Jay Cripps on the left, and Kevin Johnson, which is the lead U.S. Marshal, keeping the peace with South Dakota Highway Patrol car parked in the background, providing cover. And you can see how they all support each other and have worked in harmony one with another. So this was an orchestrated event. And I could see that, when I asked this here, those marshals that day, it was all 4 of them I remember came out, and I handed them the papers to serve to the judge, and they looked at me and they looked at the papers and they looked at me and looked at the papers, and they said, we cannot serve this, because they had this already planned out to carry this out the next morning. And number 5 is the South Dakota Highway Patrol on the left and the U.S. Marshal Kevin Johnson on the right, showing off their weapons, making sure nobody comes into the driveway. And the lab dog that I had named Leroy Brown was looking around, sensing something wasn't right. And the 2 highway patrols that come out were Dennis Marler and Jeff J. Ireland. And they were both named later on into a Title 42 that will follow. Number 5 for coming out, having no warrant, no due process, all this stuff. But number 5A, the South Dakota Highway Patrol on the left works together in harmony with the U.S. Marshal Service agents, Jay Cripps in the middle and Kevin Johnson on the right, violating their oaths of office to support and defend the Constitution. These corporate agents working together in harmony for the benefit of the bankers again. And number 6, Deputy Sheriff Bill Youngstrom in the vehicle coordinating with U.S. Marshal Kevin Johnson so their plan of attack goes smooth. And number 6A, here's U.S. Marshal Jay Cripps with the South Dakota Highway Patrolman in the car, keeping warm while providing backup for the swarm of federal corporate agents, making sure they get enough assets to satisfy the bankers. And number 7, PCA Assistant Helper Sturge Voigt on the left in the red, and PCA Special Assets Agent on the right, which was Wayne Williamson, together as a team to confiscate assets for the bankers again. Number 7, PCA Assistant Helper Sturge Voigt did not want to be identified in the theft, but came to help PCA Special Assets Agent Wayne Williamson, a banker. And here you'll see on picture number 8, PCA Assistant Helper Sturge Voigt on the left and Roger Wilcott on the right, who didn't want to remove his ski mask helping sort cattle. Now, when they were out there doing that, they were both in the yard with their masks on, and they wouldn't take them off. But I walked around the corner once, and I believe that was Sturge Voigt that don't have a mask on there. He was running around. He got all sweated up, and he pulled it off. I walked around the corner, and I said, "Smile," and I took a picture with him in the crowd. And number 8A was PCA helpers Roger Wilcott on the left and Sturge Voigt in the back with the bankruptcy court hired thief Louis Dirks by the gate on the left, with PCA banker Wayne Williamson on the right, helping to get the gate set up to gather the cattle for shipment to the sale barn. And number 9 is the Charles Mix County Deputy Sheriff vehicle watching to make sure all goes smooth. And number 9A, which is the U.S. Marshal Kevin Johnson on the left, talking to Charles Mix County Sheriff Ray Westendorf again on the right, and another agent, talking over their plan of attack. And I believe this is just prior to the trucks coming into the yard. And number 10, the proud Charles Mix County Sheriff Ray Westendorf inviting the swarm of federal agents to steal cattle from the local farmer, Darrell Link, to satisfy the banking cartel and their lust for more assets, even though negotiable instruments were used to discharge the debt. And they kept the original instruments and did not want to acknowledge the discharge. So this is where they refused to honor the law. They got the courts backing them. They've got all the law enforcement agencies working together, all in harmony again to protect the banking cartel. And you can't call it anything different than that. Okay, number 10, A, the South Dakota Highway Patrol on the far left talking to the U.S. lead marshal working together for the corporate bankers. While the U.S. marshals in front in the close-up pictures was Jay Cripps, and I'm not sure of the marshal that name on the right. It was either Matthew Mackley or Richard White. I think that was Richard White, if I'm not mistaken, providing protection from anyone who might interfere with their theft procedure. And number 11, here's the South Dakota Highway Patrol on the left with the U.S. Marshals, Kevin Johnson on the left with Cripps kind of in the middle, and my neighbor Leon Towler on the far right, all watching how all these federal agents can work together in harmony like a swarm to confiscate cattle for the benefit of the bankers. Again, number 11. Here was the South Dakota Marshals on the left, and I believe all 4 of those were marshals because there were all 4 marshals were there, and they were the ones that always worked as a team. And I think I wrote down on the sheet there were 3 marshals, and the one on the left was the Highway Patrol, but he was I believe he was the marshal too, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, then another Highway Patrol on the right, and my dog Leroy Brown wondering what these guys were up to as the corporate agents are watching this cattle confiscation get closer to finished. And then number 12, the planned cattle confiscation has been completed, and now the swarm of federal agents are going back to the comforts of their own office and talk about how good they work together to accomplish the goal for the corporate banks and bankers. Number 12, I just caught this as I was out by the driveway and this pickup come driving by, and I wasn't aware of it, but he was checking to show that the work was all finished, and it caught me by surprise when attorney Douglas Kettering for PCA out of Yankton, South Dakota drove by to see that the cattle confiscation was all finished and successful. You must know that the bar attorneys work hand in hand to make sure that the bankers' profits are protected and that any lawful challenge to the credit scam and their Ponzi schemes. But it was funny because I was out to the driveway there, and here come this pickup, and I didn't it kind of caught me by surprise. And when he drove by, I said, well, shoot, that's Doug Kettering, that bankruptcy attorney, or the attorney for Production Credit Association. He come to drive by to see how everything was going on, to make sure everything got finished properly. And picture number 13. This is a picture taken on April of 1995 with the cattle yards empty after the rape and confiscation on December 13th, 1994. I had posted the property with a sign on each side of the driveway, "Do not trespass," with a warning of lawful consequences if warning is not taken serious. Then the last picture, 13A, here's a picture of my mailbox. Here's a picture of my mailbox that I made to express my views on socialism or communism. And up on the top, it said, "America, land of the free, keep it that way," in quotes. And then the 50 stars and 13 stripes on the top is a flag standing for peace. And then down on the bottom is a hammer and a sickle behind a walk plow on handlebars, standing for servitude or slavery or involuntary servitude. And apparently that might have struck a nerve to some people that maybe took it wrong, but I thought I put a little wind vane up on the top, but I thought this was an expression of what I've seen going on in our local community, where I would say there's probably at least 70% of the farms, over the past 15, 20 years have basically disappeared, been burned down, buried, vacant, just abandoned.
Right.
Where's all the people that are gonna, how come none of the children of the other families weren't able to continue going on? But the farming has been just gradually being dilapidated. But ever since 1970, 71, they took the silver out of the silver dollars. And in 1970, the Secretary of Agriculture, and I've got this notice somewhere, where the Secretary of Agriculture appointed 10 young executives, and their purpose was to inflate and deflate agriculture products to basically do away with the small producers. And you could see how effective that was through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and it continues. And now look at the corporate farming that's going on. The equipment keeps getting bigger. The small towns are dilapidated. Everybody getting pushed into the big cities where now they can control you. They want to inject this here plasma into you and control you through frequency.
You got to be careful about that for YouTube.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, I'll leave all that off then. But it was interesting when I did part 7, and I checked it. I don't know, that evening it was maybe 6:30 or something like that. But anyway, I checked it, and I think I was number 12. It said there was 12 views, and after I got on, I was watching this little counter. It went to 13, and then it went to 14, went back to 12. Then it went to 16, it went back to 12, went back to 18, it went back to 14, and it was like it had a recoil. It went to 22, it went back to 14, 26. It kept on going back and forth. It was like, this is kind of interesting. And I don't know how many likes were at the time. I think there was maybe 6 or 8, or I'm not quite sure. And then I thought, well, the next day, I thought I would check it just to see what it looked like, or see how many views and stuff. And it showed there was 403 likes, but then there was only 124 views. And I thought, how could that be? If there was only 124 views and 403 likes, there's something not quite right here. Apparently they got their counters mixed up or something. And then I checked it out a little later, and there was only 11 views or 11 likes. And I thought, well, that kind of stands to reason. I guess this is what you'd call shadow banning, right?
That is shadow ban. It is a real thing. You can watch it in real time, and it's insane. Yes, absolutely.
But I looked at that and I thought, wow, and I think I didn't know what the likes are now, but the last time I seen it, it was still stuck on 11. So they tried to discourage people from hearing about the truth. And I downloaded some videos where Michelle Moore did some interviews with Mike Gill. And I opened that up, and man, Livens, it gave me all kinds of warnings, like there was a real risk to look at that stuff, but they fear that people will know what the truth is and what really happens. And I'm sharing all these documents so that you can see that this is how the courts operate. And I'm not just blowing smoke. You can see that I don't know of anybody else, or I haven't seen anybody else that put up a resistance to a battle in bankruptcy court where I wanted out. They would not let me out. They persisted on going forward to take everything I've got. And this goes where that is supported, where that state attorney said that we're going to make an example out of Link. Well, what'd he do? We're going to make an example out of him, because we cannot allow anybody to contest their little Ponzi scheme. So it's a real war that we're in, and it's very deceptive. And if you're not aware of the way the court system works, they spell justice a little bit different. They spell it just us. And if you're not in the club, I mean, I guess you'll have to fend for yourself, because they're gonna come and take everything you got, and they've got all the rest of the corporate agents basically to back them up. So anyway,
So
with that kind of concludes.
Hang on. That's a good segue, because you bring up such a valid point, and your story dovetails into what I've been telling everybody, especially people running these assemblies, people that want to join these assemblies. And by assemblies, I'm talking about following Anna Von Reitz, David Lester Straight, Esther Payne, any one of the other multiple assemblies across the country. This is what you're up against. Okay. And what Darrell did not preface at the very beginning of this about his own story is this man worked his ass off, saved his money, bought a few head of cattle straight out of high school, and created an empire. And they took it all away from him. Just like that. That's how easy it is. A lot of you people out there don't realize how quickly your life can change, and everything you own, care about, have any kind of excuse me, any kind of sentimental value towards, can be ripped away from you immediately. Natural disasters, governmental intervention, corporate intervention, multinational intervention, religious intervention. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And this is a real thing. And this is what I tell everybody that they're up against. And I'm not going to say every instance you're going to encounter this type of entrenched corruption through local, county, state, and federal officials working in harmony. But when it does happen, you see how it happens. And
I don't know. Oh, go ahead.
It broke you, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, they left me with nothing, basically, when it was all over with. I had a car that a friend took and parked it about 30 miles away in a grove of trees. And then I had a little bit of stuff that my mother and sister-in-law took out of the house that was still left in there, and they put it in an old chicken house that got kind of.
They may want to still come. We're not even going to talk about what you stashed.
Well, no, allegedly. I mean, but that was the only thing that was left. And and you
Get it.
know, I found a pair of my shoes in the, it was, I had new soles put on them, and they had my name written inside of it. And the guy that, his grandchildren or, whatever, come, and they were like, well, we can just take whatever we want. And so I didn't know, you know, my shoes disappeared and a bunch of stuff just was gone. And the next thing, I got a call from the 4-H grounds there in Lake Andes, South Dakota. And they said, well, they found a pair of shoes that had my name in it in one of the cattle pens.
Oh,
And I thought, well, I said, yeah. I said, I missed a pair, and they were a new pair of boots that I had that they were like elephant skin, but you know, I had them resold, and they had my name written in it. And so it was one of the boys that of the guy that supposedly bought the farm through the bankruptcy court. And, you know, he told them, yep, go out there. You can take whatever you want to take. And so they ravaged through things, and I ended up getting those shoes back. And, you know, I still use them today a little bit I had to resole them again, but that I still use them today as an everyday shoe. But anyway, they just plunder whatever they felt that they could get their hands on, but this is the way the system operates. And all these different agencies work together, but who are they working for? It all goes back to that Federal Reserve banking system. And this is what caused slavery, where they are lending us nothing so we can go buy something. And if we don't come back with the something plus interest, they'll take everything when they had absolutely nothing to begin with.
And got taxed every step of the way.
Yeah, but this is how the system works, and that's why they invented or brought in the monopoly game back in 1934 to get us used to circulating monopoly money as if it was lawful money, and we don't know the difference. And I was going to do a little presentation on the breakdown of that money, but I've got
that's an entirely separate subject, a whole different video apart from this, because we're just dealing with your farmer's nightmare. That's all this is about. So yeah, if you want to
and the next
on the Federal Reserve currency, we can dive into that on another video. No problem.
Yeah, no, and the next one I want to do is going to be regarding, I filed a Title 42 action against the marshals, the sheriff, and all these people that were involved in the taking of the cattle.
Right.
And basically they come out there, they didn't have a warrant and all this stuff. And so I've got a bunch of that stuff ready. I've got to get it over to you, Floyd, but I want to highlight, it's pretty voluminous as far as papers. I want to cut it down to the basics, and I want to highlight the most pertinent parts to bring it out. We can show all the documents, but if somebody wants to read the whole document, but to go through it all is quite extensive. So, but we can do that. Probably the next video is to deal with the Title 42 action that followed up after the taking of the cattle. And then they were moving already to confiscate all the personal property.
All right. There you go, folks. There's your segue into
machinery and all that stuff. That follows all this. So that'll be in the next part.
Awesome. Cool.
So
looking forward to that. All right, guys. There
with
you go.
That, I yield.
Oh, all right. Well, that wraps up part 8. And of course, you've heard what part 9 is going to be about. And again, Darrell, I want to thank you for being here. Look forward to producing the video on the Federal Reserve currency. So we'll get that lined up. I'm shooting videos all day long. So I'm already jam-packed for today, but we can line something up hopefully for this week if you don't have part 9 lined up yet.
I've got it all pretty well sorted out. I just want to go through and highlight the parts that I want to focus on to bring it out. And okay. But I'm not going to go through every page because there's just too much there. But I'll show you the most pertinent parts of the Title 42 the parties that were involved, what was addressed. I lay out the authority. I lay out the remedy, and then kind of go into the action that took place after that. And then this is where it really shows the court's devious attempts and how they use the uppercase and the lowercase letters to deceive. Just like when I brought this action, I had the names in all capital letters, and they discharged the small letter entity. and then when I appealed it and brought that issue up, the appellate court said, that was all nonsense.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
I mean, this is how they work together, and I can show you the proof, and that's why I'm showing the documents, so you can see that what I recognized and what I addressed is not a bunch of hogwash.
Exactly.
That it is what actually happened, and I yield.
All right. All right, Darrell. Well, thank you for being here. If I don't talk to you, or if we don't get a video posted before the holidays, happy holidays to everybody else. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you in part 9. Thank you, Darrell.
Okay, thank you, Floyd. Appreciate it.
And there you have it, Darrell Link, Farmer's Nightmare, part 8 in the can, part 9 coming up. And we're also going to do a separate video on Federal Reserve note currency, how all that works for most of you who have not read The Creature from Jekyll Island or The High Priest of Treason. Don't actually understand how the Federal Reserve works. But there you go. Thanks for being here. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, leave a comment below. As we discussed, my channel is shadow banned. I have faith in something that people that run this company that I'm on don't. We have a little opposite direction in faith. So thank you for being here. Like, subscribe. I already said that. Fearless Floyd Show at yahoo.com is my email if you want to email me. Fearless Floyd Show across every social media platform, mainly over on Telegram. So go find us over there. I'm on every other platform, but I mainly play on Telegram. I just don't have time to play on all of them. It's tough enough just posting all day long, reading, posting, sharing. It's taking calls, texting. Yeah, it gets exhausting. So today I'm just doing videos all day long. So I got all these holiday specials running. I covered them on the front of the video. Boom, there you go. Please come check them out. Get them while the opportunity's hot. Somebody did enroll in class and signed up for the sweepstakes. So I guess they want to win a gift for somebody. I don't know. I didn't understand that, but it is what it is. Thank you for that purchase. I appreciate you. It's always nice to do a show, check your email, boom, there you go. Another one. So thank you for being here. Peace in the Middle East. Let's get this RV over with, and let's do something about the southern borders, or the border of the United States, period, man. Check the homeland. God shed his grace on thee.